Hey everybody, it's Ryan from Pi Records, and I'm happy to be back after a little break. First one we're doing is with Victor from the Coffin Daggers. How you doing, Victor?
All right.
It's good to see you.
Good to be here.
So I want to talk about the Coffin Daggers. I heard about you quite a while ago, and I don't know everything about the band, but you sound like you're from New York.
Yeah.
And which is cool because I'm from Philly. I'm kind of close. But tell me a little bit about how you got the Coffin Daggers started, and was it inspired by bands like the Mummies and things like that?
Well,
Give me your take on it.
what kind of I used to play punk rock hardcore. I started out in the early New York hardcore scene in the early 80s, and I played in a few notable punk bands in the through the 80s and 90s. And then I was in a band from England in the 90s, in the like and then I was living in England, and I got deported from England in 1995.
What'd you do?
So it's well, I overstayed my visa. Like
Oh, okay.
I was in this big over there. I used to go over there for 6 months. We'd tour Europe and then come back here and tour, and I did that cycle a bunch of times. And then one of the times I just overstayed it a little bit. They deported me to France just to twist the knife in a little bit.
Oh, that's a shame.
So I ended up, long story short, I ended up living in Amsterdam for about 3 years or so. And I had kind of had it up to here, like punk rock. I couldn't muster it up anymore for yet another go round of the same thing. And so I wasn't playing guitar or anything. And the place I was living in, a previous resident had left behind a Manor Astroman album, Destroy All Astroman, and a Phantom Surfers album. And so I got engrossed in listening to those records. And then around the same time, Dick Dale played at the Melkweg Club, which was like a few blocks where I was living. So I went there to see him, and it kind of I had this epiphany kind of moment where it kind of reignited the whole reason that I liked playing guitar in the first place, which is you just hit it and it made this really cool sound, and that kind of got me into I'm going to learn to play this kind of stuff, whatever. And I mean, I had always been aware of the Ventures and surf music and all that my whole life pretty much, but it never really attracted me until that moment where it just kind of struck me that yeah, this is a new thing to kind of get me back into guitar the same way when I was 12 learning, and so I got engrossed in that. And then when I came back to America, I decided to start a band like that. And and I went through a lot of lineup changes and blah blah blah, and here we are.
So you had a new single out last year. Lots of keyboards in it and spooky sounding. Where did your idea come from that? For that?
Pardon?
Where did your idea come for the sound for the last single you had?
Well, the last single, if you're referring to the Ghoul.
Yeah.
Well, that's a cover of Jack Marshall tune, which is it's actually the flip side of the Munsters 7-inch when that came out, early 60s or whatever. Yeah, and it's kind of an obscure one, but I liked it because it has a baritone in it. It sounds kind of cool, and so we pretty much did a straight up cover of that. Although I hesitated to call that a single because it's just online. It's not real an actual physical release.
Yeah. So you guys released that yourself then?
Pardon?
You released it yourself?
No, that was the label we're on Cleopatra Records.
Oh, okay, great.
Yeah, and they take care of putting that and whatnot.
There's a lot of
because it was during the pandemic and whatnot. There was no physical release of it,
Yeah. everything's backed up now too.
Yeah, yeah.
So so that was last year. What do you have going on now?
Well, right now we're trying to like get well right before the pandemic we released an album, and we were ready to hit the road with it and like promote it and everything. And then the pandemic hit, everything shut down, and that kind of knocked it all out of the water. And so we've been just, I mean, we spent the whole last year and a half sort of like practicing, trying to write new songs and that. But mostly what we did is build out a recording studio, and
Oh wow.
we've opened it commercially during this whole like last year and a half. And yeah, and so at the moment we're trying to like kind of regroup the band, and we just played Music Fest
Yeah,
the other
yeah.
week, and that's the first thing we've done in like a year and a half. And then now we're just trying to figure out like our next move.
When I was a teenager, I used to go there every summer.
Yeah, we played it a few, like maybe like 3 or 4 times now,
Yeah.
and it's always been fun.
Yeah, lots of bands.
Plus, after like a year and a half of like a year and a half of Sundays, basically not doing anything, it was very refreshing to actually go out and play.
Yeah. What was now that's close to where I'm from. I'm from the Lehigh Valley. So where what was the kind of reaction to the surf music from the fans there this summer? Were they just like kind of really enthusiastic to get out and see the music?
Well, usually it goes over well what we do there. Plus in Bethlehem we have a little bit of a following in Bethlehem, so like we play like at the Fun House a bunch of times and whatnot.
Oh
And
yeah.
yeah, and so people turn out to see us for that, and amongst the usual like crowd or whatever. But
Awesome.
it's gone pretty well.
So back to your influences. Would you say Dick Dale is a heavy influence, like you were mentioning before?
Yeah, definitely. As far as the approach to assaulting the guitar, so to speak.
Yeah,
Definitely tremolo picking thing definitely comes from him. So
yeah.
absolutely.
Well, I think our listeners would be interested to know what type of guitar you used to make that sound.
Well, I use a Stratocaster and a Mosrite, a Ventures model Mosrite, and because they both do kind of like a slightly different thing.
Yeah, yeah.
They're appropriate for what we do. And
Awesome.
I'm not particularly like I mean I've played mostly Strats for like forever, but I started out on an SG and all that. I have nothing against any other guitar really, but
Yeah,
for
yeah.
what we do, Asher and Mosrite's like just perfect.
Yeah, the combination of sonically the combination is great.
Yeah, well the Mosrite does what the Strat won't do, basically,
Yeah.
which is just certain aggressive kind of thing that you know.
So who's in the lineup right now, as far as members?
Well, right now we have myself and we have Peter Clarnet on the bass and Rob Morrison on the organ and rhythm guitar. And up until now we had Alex Roshinsky on drums, but he's leaving the band, unfortunately. So we are in the midst of replacing him.
Okay. Have you held auditions? How is it getting people to audition during
Well,
this
we
kind
haven't.
of half lockdown thing?
This is very recent, so we haven't been too on top of it at the moment.
Okay.
So we're on the search right now. We have a couple candidates, likely candidates.
Yeah. So what I'd like to know is how many songs you're like currently working on, because releasing, I know a lot of bands release stuff close to or within the pandemic that went on to write tons more songs. How much material do you have right now that you're able to work on in your studio?
Well, there was a bunch of stuff that we were working on before the whole thing went down. And at the beginning of it, I said, like what a lot of people did is they said, "Oh, great! I'm gonna write 10 albums worth of songs. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna do the other thing," and ended up doing like nothing, you know. Um, so I mean, I came up with ideas and stuff like that, but nothing concrete. Whereas like where I the way that I work normally is I plot along, meandering along, trying to like churn out stuff, and I'm not happy with any of it. Most of it gets scrapped. Then all of a sudden, like everything comes in an instant, and it just
Yeah.
develops like um. But I gotta kind of be working on it for that to happen. But it's usually not what I'm working on. Like,
How is the studio working out for you?
pardon?
How is the studio working out for you?
Oh, so far so good. I mean, we always had recording facilities. I've always been like a hobbyist with that, and I've always been involved in recording. And we uh we never thought past like, oh, we have our own demo studio or whatever. But then the last four studios we've recorded at have closed down, and we've always done everything completely analog, like on tape.
Yeah.
And so those studios are dropping like flies now. Um, and so we decided, let's just step it up and you know get the equipment up to snuff and get it to the standard that we've established with the records. And you know and it's been going really well. The gear's good, the room's good. We've done a few bands so far commercially, and it's going well. We've managed to get some clients, and despite this, world situation.
Are you able to talk about who you worked with?
Just mostly it's been local bands, really, at the moment. Nobody like relevant to like surf music or whatever.
So there's a lot of hardcore shows coming out right now up in New York. Did you get involved with any of those bands that are kind of warming back up?
Well, like I haven't been really involved with the hardcore thing per se. I have a punk band going called Dying Breed as well. That's
Okay.
just pretty much straight out like punk rock band. And yeah, but we haven't really played out too much. And I mean, there's not the whole like hardcore scene like in New York like during the 80s. It just became into something that it wasn't before. It turned into this like real like jockey, like aggressive, like kind of thing. And so over the like since the 90s, I haven't really been involved in the punk scene too much, or hardcore scene or what have you. So I'm not although there's a few things going on in New York with respect, and there's just sort of like revival going on, and I haven't been too involved in it.
Uh, yeah, the Madball thing when they did the show.
Right.
Uh,
Well, there was
yeah,
the big show in the park a couple months ago now, or whatever.
yeah,
That yeah, I wasn't at that. I know there was a big controversy about that show and all, but
yeah. I was kind of on the fence, but still glad to kind of see them out there.
yeah, I mean, yeah, in a way, it's like it's in the spirit of the whole thing anyway. Do something like that.
Yeah, yeah. So um, I'm really glad we got to talk. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about? Anything you're working on? Anything we may not have touched on that you want to talk about before we sign off?
Well, nothing in particular. I mean, just want to maybe give this album a little push because this the album we did right before the pandemic hit,
Yeah.
and got blown out of the water, unfortunately. But it's a whole album of Japanese surf like instrumental sort of tunes,
Oh
and
man, I would totally love that record.
we can totally send you one.
Where where
Um,
where do you, where can you get that record?
pretty much everywhere. It's on Cleopatra Records, so pretty much everywhere from Amoeba on down. Like, um, and it's yeah. I mean, it kind of stalled out because it just came out as soon as the pandemic hit and everything. And other than that, like I said, we've been accumulating songs, and
Yeah,
hopefully start recording again soon and get something out in the near future.
that's a
And start
shame
playing.
because that's a really good idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's gotten really good response so far. And I'm very pleased with the way it turned out.
Have people been paying more attention to it now that things are opening up and they can go out to the stores and pick this up?
I'm not sure, really, to be honest. I've been in like this bubble all this time, so
Yeah,
only starting to come up for air. So
yeah. All right, Victor. Well, thank you so much for being on the show. I want to wish you good luck with your studio. Um, that's something that I would love to have in my house, although I don't have the talent for it.
uh,
But it'd be something I love to just being around music all the time and but the next best thing is talking to people like you who can give me some insight into their music and recording other people's music. So I want to thank you so much for your time. Um, thanks for calling me before the meeting because we would have missed each other. So thank you so much, Victor.
yeah, thank you.
All right, have a good day.
You too.